have found the Genesis frequency. This is Dr. Stephen J. Kazmina welcoming you in to another episode of a show that focuses on your whole life prosperity and success. Whole life prosperity and success by cooperating with the universal laws that are available to each and every one of us. This is Quantum Leap Goal Achievement, radical personal transformation, whole life prosperity and success. Now, stay tuned for another exciting episode that'll move the needle in your life from where you are now to where you want to be. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it may be, wherever you are in the world. When you hit that play button, so glad you did. This is Dr. Cause and Effect, Dr. Stephen J. Kazmina coming at you with another episode of the Genesis Frequency, a show all about personal, professional, and leadership development. Welcome in. Hey, we beat up on paradigms pretty good over the last few episodes, so we're going to wrap that up for now, but I will keep coming back to them because that's a topic, a subject, something within us that we can't ignore. We don't do the work once and then forget about it because we're creatures of habits. It's something we have to consciously, consistently examine to see what habits are we falling into that are not supportive of the goals that we want to achieve in our lives, what we want to make manifest in our lives to satisfy any longing and discontent. And just knowing about them. And I said this many, many times, and I just want to reinforce it again. Just knowing about them is not enough. We have to do that. Search and destroy. We have to do that. Find and replace, as we talked about in the last episode. One thing I don't think I mentioned was there's really only two ways to once we've identified the habit, the pattern, the paradigm, the programming, there's really only two ways that we can move away from it and into something new, into a new habit. One is emotional impact, and the other is constant spaced repetition of the desired state. So let me just share an example with you. Uh, a lot of people didn't. What does that really mean? Sometimes we have a fear in our life, a scare in our life that has such an emotional impact on us that we just start doing things in a different way right away because that emotional impact was so profound. And that's had a very big impact in my life. That's one of the way I've changed so many habits was, hey, being laid up, I should say, in a hospital room on a bed, looking up at and the doctor looking down at you and said, "You have 3 days to live." Now, that will that will cause an emotional impact. It did in me. So at that point, that emotional impact was strong enough in order for me to walk away from alcohol and tobacco. And I've been free from alcohol and tobacco for over 15 years now. So that's an emotional impact. Another emotional impact example can be found in what we witnessed throughout the COVID pandemic. And this is a large scale emotional impact. But look at the effect that the emotional impact the pandemic had. So, we as a society, as I explained in the previous episodes, as a society, just like we do as an individual, an organization, a society, an individual, we are all locked into programming. We are all locked into these paradigms. And again, paradigms are a multitude of habits that have almost exclusive control over our habitual behavior. So, just as we are as individuals, habitual creatures, so is society, so are organizations, corporations, profit and nonprofit. It doesn't matter. You have that element in there. This is the way it's done. This is the way we've always done it. We're not going to change now, right? So when we entered into the pandemic and COVID and lockdown and everything that went along with it, that was an emotional impact. Well, wait a minute. Oh my God, we can't do business like we've always done. See, the impact is businesses, organizations, individuals were forced to change. It wasn't it wasn't left up to, well, maybe I will, maybe I won't. It was, you got to do this. You got to do this thing so we can help to save each other, so we can help to keep each other healthy. And all kind of things changed because of that. So many people working from home and continuing to work from home when organizations said, hey, we broke the pattern. There was a pattern interrupt. We changed programming. We changed the way we do things. We broke the habit of what was always done, and we tried new ways of doing things. So that's the search, identify, and replace that we talked about over the last few episodes. So I said, well, this is how it's always been done. We're at a point now that it's not, well, maybe we'll consider something. It's we have to do something different. So that's a societal and organizational emotional impact. There was an impact made by the pandemic, and everything was changed. Industries were created, flourished. You look at, Zoom and Skype were always out there. Were out there for a long time before the pandemic, but then you saw the robust interest in them and Microsoft Teams and on and on and on it goes, all the different platforms. So there was a lot of good that came out of that. So that's why we want to do this work as an individual, but we have to be aware that it's ongoing, that it's something we're always examining through the lens of looking at our productive activity and our non-productive activity throughout our day. What are we doing? And is it supportive of what we want to achieve in our lives? And that's what I want to move into next is I've talked plenty about goals. In fact, this program is probably predominantly about goal achievement and living the life you would love to live and satisfying longing and discontent that you perhaps find within yourself that you finally want to do something about, that you finally want to satisfy that longing and discontent, that you're just tired of it all and you want to move into that space and place of your infinite potential and accomplish and be, do, and have it all. One thing I haven't spent a lot of time about, in fact, I used to years ago, I used to speak against SMART goals, that SMART goals weren't really that smart. And to a certain extent, I still do. But since my affiliation as a franchisee with Leadership Management International, I changed my stance a little bit because I took a deep dive into the study of SMART goals and I realized why I was doing that and why I at times would bash SMART goals because there's so much stuff out there and so many people get it wrong because they don't really define the terms within SMART goals. Now, my company is the registered trademark holder of SMART goals. So I think there's some authority behind that. I think there's some knowledge and wisdom behind the way that LMI defines SMART goals. And within the LMI organization, those SMART goals are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and tangible. Now there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of think tanks out there. There's a lot of well, papers published by universities, human resources department that use different words to get around the trademark so there's no infringement there. And I guess we could plug in a lot of different words. We can take out attainable and plug in achievable and things like that. But what I see coming out of a lot of human resources department and some of these think tanks that want to just churn out material, want to just churn out content, is they don't really take the time to define each of these individual steps: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, tangible. or whatever word you are assigning to smart. So that's where I would often go off on the tangent. Hey, these are smart goals are not necessarily smart. Now, they have their place. When we're talking about, I'm still the big dream goal guy. I don't think we set goals that are big enough. And that's the trap of SMART goals. In fact, I was just doing a little Googling before this particular episode and oh my God, what have we had turned into? There's so much content out there about no, don't set big goals. Don't don't do big dream goals. Don't make your goal too big. And it's absolutely ridiculous when our potential is infinite. Absolutely ridiculous. So if it is a big dream goal that's going to satisfy your longing and discontent, I would apprehend that in using the power of your imagination and develop that. And then I would look to SMART goals to chunk it down, break it down into bite-sized pieces, and then take a look at the steps necessary to move your stuff closer to the overall picture. So if we would look at our SMART goals in that context, we would look at, hey, I have this big dream goal here. It's audacious. It is bold. It excites me and scares me at the same time. And to me, a critical element is I have no idea how I could make this happen in my life because how is none of your business. See, now SMART goals don't take any of that into consideration. So if we start with SMART goals, rather than that big dream that would satisfy any longing and discontent we might have, we might be settling. That was my whole problem with SMART goals. Are we settling? So use the SMART goals as the stepping stones to the overarching picture, the grand picture, the big dream, the all of it, the whole enchilada, whatever you want to call it. And then you don't have to know how. Does it meet those criteria? Does it excite you and scare you at the same time? Do you have no idea how you could possibly do it? Is it really that thing? Have you taken the time? Have you made your list? And identified this every time I go over my list, I get to this particular big dream goal, and man, the hair on my arm stands up. And I know that if this was my life experience now, it would satisfy that longing and discontent. And it includes everything I'm passionate about. Do you know you have the right one? So now we're taking elements from SMART goals and we're saying, yeah, this is it. This is it. I've identified it. This is what I want. I've done the work and I have plenty of episodes on that, how to make that list, how to go back over it, how to make sure it includes what you're passionate about, how to make sure it's the right one, how to feel into that list energetically and say, yes, this is it. So then you want to be specific about it. Then you're going to do the imagination work. So that's the first part of where the overarching goal, the big dream goal, and SMART goals will have some alignment. You want to build this thing out in your imagination. This is the big dream goal. Now, I want to get specific about it because we're working with a law of specificity. If we have a fuzzy goal or a fuzzy picture or where are we going, there's no clarity. Well, our results are going to be fuzzy results. Our results won't be really clear. And I use the example all the time. Well, I want to live by the water. And the person moves into a rundown apartment by a road that they never fill the potholes and they're always flooded with rainwater every time it rains. Well, you said you wanted to live by the water. So, murky ideas, fuzzy ideas, muddy ideas get muddy results, fuzzy results. So that's what it means to be specific. And take your time doing it. You landed on this goal. Get specific using the power of your imagination. You have to abandon the how. And that's why I feel the rest of the definitions are so important that we put to the words within SMART goals, because so many times these words can be defined in a limiting way. So just be concerned with the first one right now. In fact, that's probably all we really have time for on in this particular episode is get specific about that big dream goal. How does it look? If it's a house by the water, for instance, okay, where? Is it on a beach? Is it on a lake? Is it on an ocean? Which one? And get specific. Build it out. What does the house look like? Is it a log cabin? Is it a modern day ranch? What does it look like? And you want to make sure that you're considering all the different areas of your life because what we talk about here is you becoming the total person. So we want to look at our finances. We want to look at that time and money freedom. We want to look at our career and our vocation. We want to look at mentally. What are our goals mentally in education? What do we want to learn more about? What about health and physical fitness? What about social and cultural growth? So we are evolving as this total person. What about our spiritual and ethical growth? To be comfortable in our skin, to walk in that air of integrity in all that we think, say, and do. What about our family and home? How is that? How are our relationships with our immediate family members and our extended family? How is life at home? We spend a great deal of time there. So, what are our goals in that area? So, all these things are important when you're considering that big dream goal. And we should have some element, some goal in each of those areas. So, take a look at it all. And when you land on that big dream goal, you might want to go back and listen to some of my episodes on goal setting, or better yet, reach out to me at successappointment.com. That's my calendar. It'll open up in your time zone. Pick a time for us to speak with each other, successappointment.com. Or you can email me to Stephen, Stephen, at successocean.com. And I will set aside some time just to have a conversation with you to help you land on that one big desire that will satisfy everything. So what we don't want to do, and there's plenty of quotes out there too for this, is that we don't want to land on too small of goal because there's no drive there. There's not going to be any passion in it. We want to really wrap our mind around the fact that, hey, I don't have to know how. I have to be willing and able. And that's that's another part of the SMART goal. That's the attainable part. That's where we're going to take a look at willing and able. But for today, we just want to be specific. So don't look at SMART goals just yet because we're going to take these one at a time and really take them apart and look at the definitions. Look at the definitions. And we're going to stay with what my company has the trademark on the specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and tangible. And none of these words, I don't think, are going to really, once I flesh them out, are not going to be really defined as the way that, hey, maybe HR or the organization or the think tank or the well-intended from the university, writing a paper, they might be defined a little bit different here by yours truly, Dr. Stephen J. Kismaya. And I think we need to do this. So we're not limiting ourselves. So we're not settling because they might not mean what you think they mean. And that's what I have a real problem with when I see this stuff that's churned out by, well-meaning HR departments. Yeah, it's just like I scratch my head and I go, no, that's another show for another time. So we're not going to go there today. We're going to stick with this. I'm going to wrap it up for today. I've already gone into my 20 minutes. The voice is still a little bit raspy. I'm just between episodes here. I arm wrestled and fought with COVID a little bit. So just getting the voice and the pipes back. So we're going to end it right here. Think about making your goal really specific, but use your power of your imagination and work on the big dream goal. When we move forward, we're going to talk about chunking it down into bite-sized pieces and then moving those bite-sized pieces into the SMART format. That's the real smart way to do things. So, SMART goals. They can be smart and not so smart. Let's do it the smart way. That's it. That's going to do it for today. You have been listening to the Genesis Frequency Podcast, personal, professional, and leadership development with me, Dr. Cause and Effect, Dr. Stephen J. Kosmina. And I wish for you an infinitely spectacular day. God bless you.